So I would like to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon for our virtual opening reception for our annual Artist Members Exhibition, Being Human Now, 20 Perspectives. I'm Shelley Rugg, the Gallery Coordinator for Gallery Route 1. For our presentation today, we ask that you please stay muted unless we request that you unmute. For best viewing, you can select Speaker View from the top right corner of the Zoom viewing screen. Although feel free to return to gallery view anytime. We want you to know that we are recording today's presentation for future viewing on our website and YouTube channel. Now, please join me in welcoming Austin Buckingham, who was the exhibition lead for this show.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gallery Route 1, the 2021 Annual Artist Members Exhibition. The exhibition, titled Being Human Now, presents the artists' interpretations of their experiences as they have navigated the past year of the pandemic and anticipate the future of our species and the planet. My name is Austin Buckingham, one of the 18 gallery members. The exhibition also features the work of two fellows here on an 18-month fellowship. For today's virtual reception, we will be pausing at each of the artworks, allowing a 2-minute presentation by the artists. For artists who will not be present today, I will be reading their artist statement. At this time, I would like to introduce Tim Graveson. Tim?
Hello.
Tim Graveson.
I'm on camera and are you looking at
I got you.
Okay. And anyway, thank you.
Tim Graveson will be managing the video. Tim Graveson will be managing the video recording of today's event. And we're going to walk over to the first artist right here. And we will begin with this work by artist Xander Weaverskall.
And Xander is not available on Zoom today, so please read his statement.
All right, I will. Artist Xander Weaverskall. His work is titled Hanging Out with the Elk. This is my first work of visual art since my childhood was born in September. Was born in September during the pandemic. What wild times. I chose to paint a point-raised, too-late elk, in part because of the current charged politics surrounding the elk populations, in part because of the unprecedented turbulent times in thinking led to this life and the future of my child and what their relationship to nature will be. And lastly, because much of my pre-pandemic relationship to the land has been significantly curtailed, and I will miss hanging out with the elk. This piece was created based on a reference photo taken by my childhood friend, Justin Strawn. This artwork was freehand painted using only homemade pens and paintbrushes, made from locally sustainably harvested elderberry and saproot. I made the ink for this painting from homemade charcoal that was ground up and mixed with distilled water and local plum tree resin. I mean, it's an incredible work. When I saw it, I just felt the eyes of this creature staring at me. Pretty amazing. The next artist is Will Toms. Is Will Toms?
Yeah. Yes, he is present.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Will Toms, and first of all, I'd like to commend Austin on her work on this exhibit. It's not easy trying to get everybody involved and to get all their information, their documentation, their imagery for publication and for publicity in on time. It's like a little bit like herding cats. So great job, Austin. I want to say a little bit about this painting. It's 48 by 48 inches. I've been working on it off and on probably for a year and a half. It is, for those who are interested in this sort of thing, I'd like to say a little bit how it's made. I work on a panel which is made of 1/8 inch plywood on a wooden armature. A lot like the construction of a hollow core door. You can see here I paint around the edges as well. I like the thing to read as a painting, but also as an object. As far as the materials go, it's made with mostly acrylic paint, sometimes mixed with marble dust. And the collage elements of it are printed paper that I stain and then cut and use as a collage element. Also various scraps of wood and various detritus that I find. So it has, it's pretty heavily textured. As far as, no, Austin asked us to make a statement, which I will read. It's very short, about how this ties in with the theme of the exhibition, which is being human now. So I'd like to read that. The imagination is fortuitous and unpredictable. It resorts to trickery to open doors and explore possibilities, to point the way to a deeper understanding of oneself and the world, and to capture some sense of what it means to be human now. This painting is called Sleight of Hand. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next artist is Robin Duncan. Please.
Hi, I want to thank Gallery One and especially Austin for trying to pull all this together, and to Zia for the inception of it. How many years ago? 38 years ago. This is a great opportunity for me. So basically, the feeling behind my life is that life suddens upon us. It's about love, fragility, transience, and reflection. These works that you see are grown in my studio and then embedded with personal objects. My grandfather was a botanist.
Oh, do that again. I didn't see it.
My grandfather, Arthur T. Evans, was a botanist, and the first experiment in this book is about sugar water, which attracts yeast just naturally. Yeast is in the air. So I've been working on this for about 2 years, especially during this pandemic, to try to duplicate an experiment. And it's sort of like every time I walk in the studio, there's something new and unexpected birthing in the studio, like the Dylan song. You know, if you're not birthing, then you're dying. And so I see this as a reflection of the human condition. I do work in other mediums, and whether it's photography, drawing, painting, textiles, these are all, I try to weave together all the fiber of my life this way to reflect this fragility and the transience and the wonder, the liminal experience of our hands sketched into our brain allows us to continue to have the sense of wonder that we have as a child. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Austin Buckingham. This is my work right here. These are monotype prints, and I'm just going to read the first paragraph. The works collectively are called The Science of Chaos. The first paragraph of my art statement, I wrote, humans throughout history have grappled with the chaos in their minds and in the environment around them, looking for ways to understand it. We have an intense need to make meaning out of a possibly meaningless universe. It is the evolutionary imperative of our survival. So I have 3 parts here. This is part 1, part 2, and part 3 on the right side. And what I want to say about these particular works is I have these large enigmatic shapes. And to me, the shapes represent the unknown or the unknowable, or I would say that's currently incomprehensible to us. But because I have a background as a scientist and a chemist and environmental science, I do believe that things are knowable, but perhaps we lack the skills, perhaps we lack the tools, perhaps we lack the right chemistry test, or maybe we don't understand the mathematics yet. So this particular one is the first one, and this was done really kind of in the deepest, darkest days of the pandemic. And I just felt myself being overwhelmed by the science and the data and all of the studies. And this portrayal of science is so dense, it's not understandable. This particular work right here represents a cellular structure. This is the osmotic barrier. This is the cells, and these are stuff that go in and out of the cells that impact our lives on a microscopic level. And this third piece right here maybe is a bit of hope in that equilibrium and stasis has been attained. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm handing it. So I'm Tim Graveson, and this is my 3 pieces. This work came as a concept of, like, we've been inside, and these are things that we have in our house. And, you know, I realized that there's a transitoriness. Partly it was the idea, it came last year, we were like, oh, the fire's coming, we're going to have to document everything in our house. And then I started looking at some of these objects as, you know, something in themselves. And so basically, these are the start of a documentation of objects that are in our, as being a human, what we collect in our house. Thank you.
Okay, Austin, I believe Bernie is not here, so you'll read his statement.
All right. This is Bernie Shemke's work. His work is titled Liquid and Pigment, and I'm reading his art statement. Approaching watercolor involves allowing the liquid and pigment to take control and simply let it define the painting. Stepping aside to watch the flow of intense color absorbed into the paper. I have no idea what the image will be, but surrender to the liquid pigment to delineate the image. As I continue to work in this medium, I realize the limitation of my control over the technical process and learn to be as much an observer as the gallery goer. Life is a series of experiences we interact with or become an onlooker. Thank you, Bernie.
Okay, so then to Mimi.
Mimi is also not here today. So I will read Mimi Aber's artist statement. Her works are collectively called Still Dancing. She has 3 sculptures in the work. And I am going to stand here and read Mimi's statement, but then we're also going to turn around and look at her 2 other works. All right. Mimi's work is called Still Dancing. Mimi writes, I've always had a love affair with trees, probably comes from growing up in Western Oregon, As a child, I was allowed to wander up hills and mountains by myself. One tree form, a live oak in this show, is based on a live oak tree in Berkeley's Live Oak Park. I love that it seemed to have breasts, which is another work over here. I still pass this tree, and it now has more growth. The piece I call Lake Merritt, which we're going to walk over towards right here. This work right here is called Lake Merritt. Is a depiction of an Australian tea tree. Let's walk over to, which is, I think it's an incredible sculptural work. It's a cast glass. Then we will also walk over to this work. It's called Live Oak. So she loves this tree because she says that it seems to have breasts. And then we're going to walk back, I'm sorry, Tim, we're going to walk back over the whole way over to this edge of the gallery again. This work right here is called Still Dancing. And she writes, in a surreal year of living dangerously, perseverance seems to be a theme, which is why Still Dancing reflects how I feel to be alive, at least for me, with a bit of humor, which makes the attempt to persevere more fun. Thank you, Edie. The next works are by Bucusa.
Okay, these paintings are from several years ago, but unfortunately they are still current to the subject matter. They apply to most of Austin Buckingham's suggested topics: relationship to the planet, effects of destructive human policies and practices on the planet, human economics and the earth, personal societal relationships with the earth, controlling nature, shortening the life of the planet, how human actions lead to the demise of the planet, the interrelationship of human beings and planet. And I've heard people talking about these paintings when they see them, and it's a very different conversation than the conversation that I have in my mind, but they all relate to Austin's suggestions. And there's a circus appearance in each of the elements. You know, the world and this life is a circus, and that's for sure. So the characters are going through the elements, and these were 4 elements. And the first element, the characters are going through fire. And it's about the misuse of rampant global warming, hot, hot, hot. In this one, they're all really hot. There is no relief. I see it on their faces. It's obvious that it's just too darn hot. And in the air, which is the next one, there are bubbles of precious air saved. Bottles of oxygen are hoarded in the man that's got the wings to his blue wings, and he's holding bottles of oxygen, which is what people are going to be having to do, I'm guessing. Everybody's trying to get enough air. They're saving it in the bubbles. They're trying to keep it clean and balancing the bubbles of air. And there's also a person that just looks like she's blowing air out. I don't know, but that's not looking very pleasant, like very pleasant air is what I was thinking. And I don't know, it just came to me. And then in water, the characters are going through the water to try and save it, but it's leaking out really fast. It's leaking out. There's not enough that we know about how to do it. And I'm telling you, the fish are really suffering. They are dry. People are carrying bottles of water and also trying to make magic with water with the guy that's trying to pour the water in the magic bottle. And the last one is not there. The last painting is called Earth. The element Earth has been sold. The painting and the real earth have been sold everywhere. It's a part of this series, but it's not here. But in that one, people are raping and ruining trees, plants, and earth. The architect has a plan, and he has all these plans to pretty much wreck the land. And the mineral person, it's the ringmaster who's got all the minerals in a big shovel. So if you want to see that one, prints of all these paintings are available in varying sizes, and you can order them through the gallery. And that is my observation for right now, and I hope not too much later. Thank you.
Is Mary should be here.
Should I talk to Mary?
Yeah,
Okay. There are two works here by Mary Montcastle Eubank. Okay.
And Mary's here.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yes, I am here. I hadn't planned on doing anything but just viewing and listening to everybody else. But I can say a few words about the work that's here.
please do.
Well, Beekeeper, this is called Beekeeper too. And both of the paintings that are here in the show are older pieces, but they continue to reflect my feeling about the natural environment and how we have to protect it. And it is true now more than ever. This painting is acrylic on canvas with lots of mixed media. And I've included handmade paper that I made, and ceramics, also ceramic pieces at the top that I handmade and then destroyed, and so I could use the fragments, and some silk, and anyway, just lots of different stuff. I always use as much different material in my paintings as I possibly can, and I have added earth materials to the acrylic paint so that the actual earth is included in the painting, which is always about the earth, especially trees, which I'm particularly interested in, as is Mimi. So we have that connection, and there we are, our work sitting together. So I really like that part. And so, thank you.
Thank you. So Z.
Hi, I'm Z. Morbitz, and this piece behind me is titled The Darkness Behind Me, and it is made of 9 altered books, and it really represents something that started in my childhood. I grew up in the aftermath of the Second World War, and there were so many people in my neighborhood that were talking and reenacting the horrors that happened to the Jews of Europe, that my reaction was to put it behind me. Honestly, I didn't want to deal with it. And a couple of years ago, someone gave me a Jewish prayer book that was printed in Warsaw. It was a Holocaust survivor, because all the Jews in Poland were basically decimated by the Nazis. So I imagined a room in the Warsaw Ghetto where a family had just been taken away to a death camp, and what was left on the floor, discarded, abandoned, prayer books, whatever meager possessions they had. And so that's the origin of this. And for me, the definition of being human has to include the possibility that this kind of evil can happen anywhere, anytime, to any group of people, as it is happening now.
Thank you.
I just wanted to pause at this work by Mary Eubank. It's called Wrath. And next to Mary's work is this lovely work by Mimi. We looked at it before, but this is called Live Oak.
Yeah, a different angle.
Yes. So the next artist we will be pausing at is Shannon.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. Just want to say thank you, Z, for what you just shared. And so my work, these are 9 images from, can you all hear me okay? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. There's some back feed. I couldn't tell if it was on my end or not. So these are 9 images from a photo project that I did in 2019, where I was participating in a restoration project in the San Pablo Bay. And this is in Sonoma County. It's our little slice of the bay. I feel like a lot of people don't identify Sonoma County as actually sitting on the bay. And so I like to bring our attention to that. And this particular part of the San Pablo Bay is now in the care of the Sonoma Land Trust. And we did the restoration project with them, which involved planting cordgrass, which you can see throughout the pictures. This particular site is really fascinating. It's gone through many, many iterations. It used to be coastal Miwok, Southern Pomo land. It was eventually taken over by Spanish settlers, and then was taken over by white people when it was being given away for agricultural use, as long as the area could be drained and dammed. And then for years was in agricultural use, but kept flooding naturally because it's a bay. And then in just about 5 years ago has gone back to the being now a tidal wetland under Sonoma Land Trust. So this is a documentation of the ongoing restoration project that's still happening there to this day, that I was fortunate to be involved in. And thank you.
Hi, I would like to point out that Shannon is one of the artist fellows at Gallery Route 1. I think she mentioned that. And this work right here is by Annie Duncan. She is also one of the artist fellows at Gallery Route 1. Annie Duncan's work, she does printmaking and painting, but for this particular exhibition, she chose some ceramic sculpture. And I'm going to read her statement. It's called Moments in Sculpture. I am interested in moments created by objects, spaces, people, which I attempt to distill and articulate in sculpture. In reconstructing these objects, I consider the emotions embedded within them. I look at the things we take into our lives, the stories they tell. My work explores subjects like intimacy, longing, nostalgia, and personhood. So I just want to point out this adorable matchbook with individual matches. That's incredible. And then we have peaches. It's summertime. Who doesn't love to have ripe peaches? And then, of course, our espresso maker in the morning. Thank you, Annie. Espresso maker.
Okay, so do we have Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing this show in person. As we know, it's seen and anything in person is just so much, has so much more impact. This particular piece is from eucalyptus, and all of my work is made from reclaimed woods. I have the good fortune to give them a second life. And I think with the vaccines that we have now, we are giving ourselves a second life, at least a second chance to keep going as normal humans. And I really love abstract forms as really my favorite language of expression, because there's so much freedom in it. And this particular piece, I've done a series of these that are really kind of more like silhouettes than really larger three-dimensional pieces that I've done. And I've been fascinated since I was a kid just with ancient megalithic structures, especially after seeing National Geographic's article on Machu Picchu when I was 10 years old. That was way back in 1950 something. When I think of those pre-Incan walls that were built with such extraordinary technology that it made the stone look like it was as malleable as clay, well, I feel very fortunate to live in a time, and I think we all do, where technology has brought us so many tools that give us such a versatility to express any whim or impulse that we might have. And as far as tool technology, I feel like I'm at a point where I can express myself and make a form like this. Again, making wood as malleable as clay. And these textures are applied, and I really have, my approach is kind of, there's some planning, and these are pieces that are kind of anomalies. They're slices. I use a chainsaw a lot to do a lot of basic cutting of shapes, and this is just one of those cut off pieces that this eucalyptus barrel that had been sitting around in my yard for several years, and then it just all of a sudden just looked at me and said, "Okay, it's time." And I think that's what happens a lot. It's just time to do this, and it just flows. And because there are other pieces where I'll start, I may have 6 or 7 pieces going on at once, and I might get it to a certain point and just sort of hit a brick wall, and then I set it aside for a while and come back. I think we all have that same experience with our work. I'm just, I'm going to continue a series of these because I really like the silhouette form, where there's basically, there's 2 personalities here, one on from either side. And I like the silhouette aspect of it. I think that's all I really have to say for this piece. I know it's going to be really much more powerful for people to be able to come in and see the show and just lay their eyes on these wonderful things. And I'm just looking forward to that. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
My turn?
Your turn.
All right. My name is Stephen Kerwitz, and these are my work. They are made out of polychrome plywood. I like that because it's a real basic, common material. A couple of years ago, I decided I'm a photographer, by the way, and I decided I wanted to get back in touch with sculpture. And I thought I'd make toy-like sculptures. And this sort of evolved out of that. My colors have changed. They started out as primary colors, but I sort of went back to my roots in the clothing business and started making color stories instead. And I'm just working on colors as a connection to emotions. And my own emotions to begin with. I'm looking for things that just satisfy me and something that just sort of fills me up. That's really the colors I'm trying to use, and they evolve. And as I look at them and as this project develops, I'm also connecting to music and and how stripes and color coincide with music. So that's just another connection to my work. I really didn't start out with any specific intentions, just about making the work and then discovering who I am and what it is as part of the process. I think that's what it's about for me. And I sure hope that for everyone that's looking at this virtually must come in. This is a tremendous show. There's a lot of great work. And I'm just blown away. I think this is one of the nicest, one of the best member shows I've ever been to. And I am the archivist, so I'm going to take a picture of. I don't want to stop that one. But now I've got the photographer gets his picture taken too. And thank you. I just want to say it's a terrific show, and I hope everybody gets here to see it.
Thank you, Steve. And Charles. I'm gonna move around this post. Yeah, I think we've got you framed up.
Hi, my name is Charles Sono. I'm, in essence, a social documentary photographer in many ways, but I'm always looking for sites that will allow me to explore the abstract elements that visually will engage the narratives that these places inherently seem to engender. So this work is based upon a site that captured me very much. It's actually from an abandoned prison built in 1921 in the East. It was at one time, it was actually the most expensive public building ever constructed in the United States. But as it is, according to our theme, Being Human Now, the current year is very relevant to talk about how this experiment was a marvelous misfire of Christendom. Calvinist prison theorists devised an institution that was based on the idea of solitary confinement. All cells were solitary confinement cells. Each cell contained what was considered to be the eye of God, a skylight. Every one of these cells had the eye of God, and the idea was that the prisoner would conduct what the Calvinists called self-penitence. Of course, it was a magnificent failure, a social experiment that caused a great deal of madness. The records coming from this institution are very extensive. It also refers to the analog processes that I prefer to work with. I use entirely film processes. I produce no digital images. And this is an inherently very analog kind of place. While it's true that a small portion of this institution is available for public review, I was able to ingratiate myself, as I have many times in places like this, with the guards and get into a secluded area, a completely sealed away wing that had this extraordinary patina, abstract potentiality, telling the social stories and printed into stone. And it's really one of the most intense places in the list that I prefer, where I'm always looking for that special nexus that has to do with the intersection of place, memory, and social context. But as we are attempting, all of us, to be human now, it's important to remember our mistakes. And so while engaging in the colors and the textures that really appeal to me so deeply, I also intended to tell the story of this remarkable human failure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, these particular works are by Stephen Pring. He calls his three works Penance and Meditation. I'll be reading his artist statement. The current paintings are a part of a series with spray paint and acrylic paint applied with the head of a number 10 finish nail. He calls this particular process, incidentally, dotalism. Dotalism. Combining the compulsive nature of such a painting process with natural forms and the imagination creates a tension between a form of penance and meditation that such action brings to the process. Thank you, Stephen. And it's worthwhile noting that in the gallery today, lots of people were drawn to the very striking shapes and color of these particular artworks, and quite a few people commented on them, how much they love them.
Go ahead, Jenny Lynn.
Okay, I'm Jenny Lynn, and this is my work here. For me, one aspect of being human now is the capability that we have to harm each other and the fear that this generates. There seems to be a cavalierness about the value of life, and I find this disturbing. I'm referring to the rampant gun violence, wars, terrorism, and government's assaults on their own people. This first piece, Vous ne possédez rien, which is essentially French for nothing is yours to keep, is taken from some graffiti that I saw in the south of France a long time ago. It was written on a wall outside a pretty wealthy community, and I just snapped it because I thought that the contradiction was telling. I took it up again a few years ago. I was reading the Bhagavad Gita and was reminded of Robert Oppenheimer's quote when he witnessed the first nuclear explosion, about him becoming death, but also that when Krishna appears in his God form, it's referred to as being like the light of a thousand suns. And this inspired me to deal with the idea of addressing beauty and horror in the same moment. There's a beauty so intense that you're compelled to look at it, but you can't because it will destroy you. And so I started working with images of nuclear explosions. In the large one, I just plopped the graffiti into it because it just seemed to fit. The series of 6 paintings is taken from stills of a video of a nuclear test. It's called Double Sun, and essentially it's a time lapse of a nuclear explosion. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Betsy. And first of all, I want to take a minute to join the voices thanking Austin for pulling this all together. It's a remarkable show, and Austin, I just can't congratulate you enough on making it all happen and pulling it together in this way. So I'll talk a little bit about my work. You know, the theme of the show being human now, and a little bit, we paid attention, I guess, to our relationship to the planet, where we were encouraged to do that. And the planet was a little more than I could handle. So I just thought about myself in the studio, about the things that surround me. And recently I've been working with cardboard. Tim, the piece that you're focusing on right now is sort of, in some ways, the anchor piece of this entire installation, which is intended to be seen not so much as discrete works, but really as the relationship among all these works in this space. And as I was working in the studio, these objects on the wall are the things that I would notice, that I would glimpse, the things that would capture my imagination for a split second and then inform the other pieces I was doing. So for me, this installation, these things that surround me are about the objects, but they're also about the spaces among the objects, which for me are like the spaces among the thoughts, the things that were occurring in my mind and in my direct experience of creating them. And so I call the piece In Defiance of Linguistic Determination. And the idea of that is that we have the opportunity to directly experience an object. It occurs, at least for me, in less than a split second before my mind jumps in and tries to make sense of what I'm seeing, and most often tries to make sense of it in terms of language, you know, explaining it to myself in words. And the result of that is that I tend to remember the words and not the direct experience. So my hope in creating this work and in installing it in the gallery in this way is that for a nanosecond, the viewer will have that experience too before the parts start to come together, before it makes sense of just being in that place with those objects and all the space that is among them.
Thank you, Betsy. Is Igor present?
Igor is not here.
All right, so fortuitously, we are ending where we began. In front of this, I have to say, beautiful gray wall. The artist's name is Igor Sazovich. Sazovich, thank you. I will be reading his artist statement. Being human now is knowing distancing and looking for any place to lie down. Such a bleak time has to affect one's concept of living and survival to a point where I whipped out the brushes and slammed them full of paint against the canvas and let whatever take over.
Okay.
So this particular work is called Looking to Lie Down, and this particular work is called Distancing. Thank you, Igor, for showcasing and being the first artist to present the work of the gallery. And also I want to thank all of the artist members for your diligence, your effort, your attention to detail, for working hard with your creativity. And I just want to say it's been a pleasure for me to get to know everyone.
Thank you, Austin. Okay, back to Shelley.
Yes, so we'd like to invite the audience, we have a few minutes left. If you have any questions or comments, you can unmute yourself at this time and say something if you like, and if not, we will close the event. All right. Yes, Pamela, go ahead.
Yes, my question is for Charles. I did not at first hear the name of the prison, but I know that you said it was somewhere in the east, and I wanted to ask you about it.
Sure, Pamela. So the Eastern State Penitentiary, again, finished in 1921, is in the northern region of Philadelphia. Ironically, it's where the New Arts District is sort of coalescing, but it is absolutely gigantic. And as such, it has actually been sanctioned by the city as a monument. And as I say, there's a small part of it that anyone can pay a fee and go in with a guide. But there's so much more there. They lack the resources to really hardly keep up the place. And the result has been that these incredible patinas that are just, they're decades old. The marvelous peeling of the green lead paint has been preserved. All of the work you see here was photographed through bars that were welded shut with age. They are not going to be opening. And as such, it made a rather handy stabilizing kind of a tripod effect. But all of these have bars across them, but I'm shooting between them. So it's there for anyone to see. You'll find it online, Eastern State Penitentiary.
Thank you, Charles.
Let me just say one more thing to him. The colors the colors are so rich, and I know they're your colors and colors to which I resonate myself. And this is, did you do anything to enhance them? You know, the lighting you used or whatever, because that's got to be very, very difficult to shoot into a space like that.
Well, so a lot of things come into play. So first of all, lighting is limited, but of course we have the eye of God helping out, which is itself a marvelous opportunity. But to answer your question, all photographers do some measure of color correction and make modifications, whether they're an analog process, as I am, or whether they capture digitally. But what I do, and what I've always done, I love the patina of antiquity, and my personal secret is I use an 81A warming filter on everything. I do not use a lens protector. I use a filter as a protector, and it gives this yellow spectrum patina. You see it especially here in this one. So the colors you see are the colors of the place, and it just begs to be captured in color. You know, I considered it in black and white and abandoned the idea right away. The light is so golden. This was in the spring at around 11 in the morning, a little bit of overcast, and very, very cooperative light, especially for an inside space with a slow light source. What I bring to it in terms of color is I've added something of the yellow spectrum by virtue of the lens. That is an old habit of mine. I think architecture benefits from a yellow filter. It's a subtle thing, but it does give you this sort of golden look. Yeah. Thanks, Pam.
I wanted to say something about this project in relation to another 19th century building in Buffalo, New York, which has been converted to a hotel now, but it was the insane asylum, and it's a Richardson building. It's phenomenal. It's got these two towers. It's the dark Richardson brick, very heavy. But the philosophy for this space is in incredible contrast to this. There were a bunch of little rooms on either side of this vast hallway. And patients were encouraged to, you know, they would sleep in their rooms, stay in their rooms, but they were encouraged to come out and socialize. And there was a tour made of the building before it was converted. And I'm sure there is still many of the halls that haven't been developed. So if you have the opportunity to go to Buffalo and ask if you can get in, there's the same kind of degradation on the walls, the paint peeling and everything. But the philosophy is completely different.
Yes. You know, the East is rife with extraordinary sites of grand institutional designs that have now gone fallow. This place was so obsessed with the idea of self-penitence. In fact, this prison is the very first prison that is called penitentiary. It's the first time we see the word in the American penal system. And penitentiary, penitence, but it was so severe that even when they were moved to different areas or the dining hall or wherever, they were forbidden to speak. So they could not speak to each other, they could speak to themselves, and I'm very sure they spoke to themselves in these cells. It did become overcrowded, and by the I believe the 1960s, they were actually doubling people up, which was to the benefit of people there. But these institutions are based upon theories, like the one you're talking about in Buffalo. I'm sure there's a strong theoretical concept driving the precept of those rooms and socializing between them, eminently more healthy and more sensible than what we saw here.
All right, thank you, Charles. And thanks, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And so I'm going to say thank you for joining us today. This exhibition will be up through July 11th, so please visit the gallery to see the works in person. Starting with this exhibition, the gallery will now be open on Mondays as well. So our new hours are Thursday through Monday, 11 to 5, and we continue to follow the pandemic guidelines for retail. So please wear your mask when you come. And I want to thank Tim and Z, our production team on site. And I want to thank Austin for the excellent work she did pulling this show together. And I'd like to thank the board for all the work they do to raise money and make sure that the gallery stays open no matter what happens. And I especially like to thank the members in the fantastic show that you've all put together and all the work that you do to keep the gallery going. If you were moved by today's presentation and want to support the work that Gallery Route 1 does to bring art to the community, then please visit our website and make a donation. And make a note in the comments that your donation is because of our virtual reception for the Artist Members Exhibition. Thanks again for coming, and we hope to see you at our next virtual reception, which will be held on June 6th for our annual Artists in the Schools exhibition at Toby's Gallery in Point Reyes. So thanks again, everyone, for coming, and we'll see you at our next event.